Ladies and gentlemen, we are live in Daytona Speed Week. We'll be back on the channel essentially here tonight. We have 5 straight live streams or 5 straight days of live streams on the channel leading you up to the kickoff of the Daytona 500 this Sunday, February 18th. As for tonight, we have pole qualifying coming for you guys. Now remember, Daytona 500 qualifying is very unique compared to every other race where the single car qualifying session only sets the front row. The rest of the field will be set based off the 2 dual races, 60 laps tomorrow night for the Daytona duels. We'll also be obviously live streaming that at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But as for tonight, we have 42 entries. Only 40 drivers can qualify for the Daytona 500 this weekend. There are 6 open entries. 36 drivers are already locked in with the charter system. And we'll obviously get to those 6 drivers here in a little bit. 2 of the 6 drivers will actually time their way into the Daytona 500 based off single car qualifying tonight, and the other 2 transfer spots will have to race their way in tomorrow night in the duel. More than likely one in each duel, which is what they've been doing under the charter system, at least when it comes to the Daytona duel races. So as for here today, we've got a plethora of different drivers. I think the back half of the field a lot more stacked than the front half of the field. I'm not sure exactly what the metric was to have the starting order. I would have thought that owners' points would have done the job, but that is not the case, obviously, because if you look at the back half of the field, it's not in the same order that we finished off last season with in the season standings side of things. But yeah, I'm excited for tonight. I'm excited to see cars on track at the Daytona International Speedway, and again, officially kicking off Speed Week here today. We'll have start times for all the other streams. I'll get into that in more detail throughout the course of the next couple hours as we, of course, see single car qualifying. Now, there are 2 rounds to this. The top 10 will advance into a second round where they will reset at least the top 10 in the qualifying order. This first round only sets running orders 11 through 42. Again, the top 10 will have to run another lap at the second round. So, and then that second time obviously would be their time, which would lock them into their starting positions for the top 10 positions based off of qualifying here tonight. I might have worded that a little weird. I apologize for that right up on the fly here. Hopefully you guys can hear me well. We did have a little bit of a audio issue at the beginning of the stream last week. I don't think we have that problem here today. We should be fixed and ready to go. Appreciate each and every single one of you guys that are tuning back in again this season. I did put a community tab post out that I will be doing more NASCAR qualifying live stream series race. So what we would end up doing basically is just go live an hour earlier before the Xfinity or Truck Series race, whatever is on that same race weekend as the NASCAR Cup Series. But again, NASCAR Cup qualifying and practice, and obviously the practice sessions now are really only about a half hour, and it's the half hour before qual that I end up going to in person down the road this year as well. Sounds good. Awesome. Jeffrey C., Dean Jallo, Jeff Year 7, Wade Solinsky, Dale Campbell. Who else we have in the chat? Earl Arnold Jr., Patty and Rumdy Creations, welcome back. Jackson Thomas, thanks for tuning in as well. Uncle Car Guy, thanks for tuning in. Santiago Kid, welcome back. Bumping and wrecking. Well, we won't see any bump drafting or hopefully crashing here tonight. Hopefully we don't see much crashing throughout the course of the weekend. This is one of the more dangerous racetracks on the schedule. We don't want that. Tyler Burback, welcome to the stream as well. But yeah, excited for this one here today. Bringing you guys the action. Got my my notes at hand. More notes this year than what I did last year. Last year was the first time I ever did a qualifying session. Really, this is only the second time I've ever commentated a live qualifying session. Last year for the Daytona 500 qualifying session would have been the first and only other time I've done it. So as we go week to week to week, I'll only get more repetition now that we're doing it every week throughout the course of the season. But that is the new thing that we have coming to the channel for the live commentary streams. And I'm excited about it because every single year I want to try to do something new, do something different on top of what we already do, or what I already do, at least bringing you guys the coverage throughout the course of the week. I didn't realize that the raw feed actually works for practice and qualifying just like it does for the races, so it's kind of nice to get to see the starting order, and I actually didn't think it was going to put the full order on here, but it does, so you can see the order on the screen. I also have a cheat sheet here that kind of helps me along the way as well, but Carson Hocevar will be the first driver to roll off for this race here today. And he is a rookie running full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series this season. Of course, was full-time in the trucks the last 2 years at Nice Motorsports. Made the championship 4 a season ago. Had 4 wins in that season. 4th overall in the Truck Series standings. Didn't get the win in the championship. As there's a squeakiness going on the other side of me. The only toy that the dog has that can squeak is the one that she is biting currently. I don't know how loud or visible that, or loud and visible isn't the right word. Just loud in general that might have been for you guys. Patrick Shadley, thanks for tuning in as well. More drivers and spots. Yeah, it always makes this a lot more fun. Unfortunately, we don't really see this with many other races. Broken chair. Oh, the squeaky noise? No, it's yeah, it wasn't a chair sound. Savvy Dayro Racer, thanks for tuning in as well. We've got about 40 people watching already, which is insane, honestly, for a qualifying session that has not yet begun. First car to go on track at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. Usually they're pretty on time, especially with qualifying. So once we get that first car on the track, we're just going to have a roulette wheel of drivers, one after another, and this is going to go pretty quick throughout the course of the night. One of the bigger tracks and one of the longer, probably qualifying sessions you'll see throughout the year would be at a Daytona or Talladega super speedway style racetrack, just because it takes longer to get around these places than most other tracks on the schedule. And usually road courses, they've always had group qualifying for the most part. They used to have single car qualifying back in the day, but as long as I can remember, they've had group qualifying since probably the mid-2000s or so for the road courses. But anyway, yeah, as far as single car qualifying goes, this is probably going to be the longest of the qualifying streams this season. No practice session before qualifying, just like last year for the Daytona 500. I don't like that personally. I like the chance for cars to get on track because you never know if you're even going to fire off well. I mean, look at what happened with the Money team last year, the 50 car driven by Connor Daly at the time. That team actually is not at Daytona this year, but was one of the open entries last season and couldn't even make a lap because of mechanical failures. Still couldn't get the mechanical failures fixed before the dual races the next night, but was able to limp their way into the Daytona 500 after a crash in that said dual race with the 62 team at the time being driven by Austin Hill, where he ended up missing the Daytona 500. And definitely a prayer answered for Connor Daly a season ago. Hopefully we don't have any issues like that here today, but at the same time, if we do see an issue like that here today, I would hope that NASCAR would make the change again going forward. Unfortunately, it did not for this season. Now, there originally was no scheduled practice sessions coming into any of the super speedway races this season, excluding Atlanta, with that being kind of a super speedway style racetrack, but a hybrid of it with it being 1.5 miles. Much more treacherous racetrack when it comes to just overall handling of the race car than Daytona and Talladega, especially with these next-gen cars. We've seen that the first couple of years since Atlanta's repave and reconfiguration. But as far as Daytona goes, the Daytona 500 has had practice sessions the last couple of years, but Talladega last year specifically did not. The summer Daytona race did not. This was not we were not supposed to have any practice at all throughout the course of the week, but they have added 2 practice sessions for the Cup Series. I think the first one is supposed to be Friday morning, and then they will also have a Saturday afternoon, or sorry, a Saturday morning and a Friday evening after truck qualifying, but before the Truck Series race. There will be practice there. I will not be live streaming those practice sessions, but going forward throughout the rest of the season, I will be live streaming the practice and qualifying sessions because it's not the practice qualifying combo back-to-back like we would see with most races throughout the course of the season. That makes it easier for me to be able to stream that, especially with having a race that day as well. With more than likely every Saturday this year, we're going to be having multiple streams the same day. But again, it'll be fun breaking down the race. I do like this as a good time with qualifying. I liked this as well last year when I did this stream, and I wish I would have done more of it, but I didn't for whatever reason. Time constraints, whatever that may have been. But definitely wanted to do it this year. We didn't really get to talk about like news throughout the course of the week during the actual race itself. Because when the actual race is going on, I want to bring you guys the action. Many of you that are probably watching these streams don't have any way to really watch or listen to the race, so this is your avenue to be able to do that, and I want to bring you the full race coverage as it happens. With qualifying, and especially commercials during qualifying, there's literally nothing going on at that point in time, so that's where we can break down news articles throughout the course of the season from a week-to-week basis, driver swaps, changes for the next season, any other news that we may see throughout the course of the year, just like we would see year in and year out. So I think that this is a good way to kind of break that down. It'll give me like an hour and a half to 2 hours every week to be able to just go over news stuff with you guys. You guys can ask me questions on what I think about certain topics, and I'm more than likely going to get to them versus the race broadcast, which I try to look at the chat as much as I can, but when I'm calling the race itself, it's just hard for me to get to everybody, and I think this will be an easier way to do that. So if you are available through the Saturdays throughout the most portion of the year, then we could definitely get to that. Kenneth Clark, thanks for tuning in. I'm doing great tonight. Hopefully you are too. And hopefully it doesn't rain all speed week. I know there's no rain in the forecast, at least for the first few days. There's no rain tonight, tomorrow, or Friday. Saturday, I think there was a 50% chance of rain and a 60% chance on Sunday. But that was also as of Monday. I have not checked the weather for Daytona Beach, Florida, not only today, but I didn't check it yesterday either. So that could have changed between what it was 48 hours ago and what it was now. New York Racing has J.J. Yaley. Yeah, late sub for J.J. Yaley to drive the 44 car. Rumored to have been Greg Biffle up until about 24 hours ago. Apparently he is not at the racetrack. His name is on the hauler. I know that was a big thing. We are getting ready. Just 2 minutes away from Carson Hocevar going on the racetrack for the first time tonight. 100% chance of rain. Is this factual or non-factual on Sunday? I hope it's not. See, we don't even know what time either. Like, because it's supposed to rain Saturday into Sunday at some point, so I don't know if that's like Saturday night into Sunday morning. Kayla, can you take her out, please? Sorry about that. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, rain for this weekend. Yeah, so hopefully it's like a Sunday morning thing and not like into the Sunday afternoon. Worst case scenario, if they can get the race in Sunday night, I'd hate to have it moved to a Monday for like the third time in the last like 5 or 6 years. Like that's a blow. Especially with last week. I didn't look at the TV ratings, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, for the Clash, but 2 weeks ago, I would have imagined that the TV ratings dipped quite a bit from the 2 years prior, considering they moved the race up a day before what they were originally scheduled. And considering that they made that decision like 2 hours before the start of the eventual race. It was definitely a late decision. I found out about it about 4 p.m., which would have been about 4 hours before the race started. I was like, oh boy, we're streaming tonight. All right. Everything went smoothly for the most part, though. Be sure to hit that like button as well if you have not done so yet. Definitely hit that like button. It's an ad playing. I skipped the ad. I gotta skip my own ad. Wow, 31 likes already. Appreciate that. Still haven't quite gotten things kicked off yet. Let's try to get to 100 tonight. I don't think I got anywhere close to that last year when I did this stream. It was more late notice, I think, last year, though, than what it was this year. I tried to make sure I gave you guys like 48 hours in advance that, hey, I was going to be... Well, I mean, I told you during the live commentary stream for those that watched the Clash with me a couple weeks ago. Cubs definitely get moved. Well, I mean, we still got 4 days. So, I mean, maybe it could change. It tends to rain in Florida practically every day anyway. 2012 was a Monday night into Tuesday morning. Yes, it was. 2020 was a Monday night also. 2021 ended like right around midnight practically. They started the race. I think they only got like 14 laps in, and then it rained. And I think they got it back up and running again about 9:30ish. And it finished right around midnight. Just 2 years ago. But yeah, no rain issues with the Daytona 500 the last 2 years. And hopefully we get 3 years in a row of that. Christopher McComas, thanks for tuning in. Welcome from West Virginia. Welcome back. I obviously remember you from last season. A lot of you guys returning viewers from last season. If you are new, be sure to hit the subscribe button. We are very, very close to 5,000 subscribers on the channel. Unfortunately, with not being able to stream throughout the winter, and then obviously leaving off where we left off after the Phoenix Championship 4 race weekend last year with the live commentary streams, we were just shy of 5,000, so it stunk sitting there for 3 consecutive months just within reach. I mean, we're only a week or two away from getting there. If the schedule would have been another week or two longer, I think we would have gotten there, but hopefully we can get there this weekend. If not, I think within the next week or two after that, we should be able to get to 5,000, but I hope we get to 5,000 this weekend. That'd be awesome to kickstart this 2024 season. And what better way to do that than during Daytona Speed Weeks, the Daytona 500 potentially on Sunday if we hit that number. You'll be covering the Indy 500 this year, be at the race in person. Dan want to see someone's commentary. I do plan on it. I think I don't want to spoil too much of this. I do have plans for the Indy 500 the next time I do go there in person. I have a special video I want to do. I don't think that that's going to be this year. If I'm here, I'm definitely going to be doing live commentary that weekend for both the 500 and then the 600 later that night. But yeah, I did Indy 500 commentary last year. I think it was like the 3rd or 4th highest viewed stream last season too, which I was surprised considering this is a NASCAR channel. I get it's racing. It's the Indy 500. It's, in my opinion, the most prestigious race ever in the world. So, yeah, we'll see. 5K. Yeah, 5K. Let's do it. Joe C., Ron Duffney, thanks for tuning in. I'll get the leaderboard back up on the screen once qualifying begins, so if you're wondering why that is what it is. I'm not sure. Honestly, Michael, I'm not sure. I'm using my sister's right now, so we're not going to have any issues with lagging or audio issues. We shouldn't. The only thing that could potentially happen is like a thunderstorm comes through during a live stream this season and knocks the power out. I mean, like that would be the only way that we would have any sort of stream interruption. Between this and then getting the new laptop, will be good to go. It was unfortunate we had that happen a couple times last year. Yeah, that was crazy. That was right around where I sat when I went in 2022. I definitely plan on going to the Brickyard 400 this year. I know you mentioned something about going to the Indy 500. If you're going to the Brickyard 400, I do plan on being there this season. I only live about 4 hours from Indianapolis, so it's a fairly close drive. And I didn't feel like going back to the road course again the last couple of years. I went there the first year they had it, and it just didn't feel the same as when they raced on the oval, just from a prestige standpoint in person. And I did want to go to the road course once because it was new. I considered it as a new track. Definitely glad they're bringing the Brickyard 400 back this year, and I definitely plan on going to that this summer. F1 Monaco is a joke. I just can't, like, I would love to do that. The thing, I mean, you're telling me I have to stream from like 8 o'clock in the morning till like midnight that night, like pretty much consecutively. Maybe an hour break in between streams. That's a long day. I mean, it's one thing to stream. Like, I can maybe pull off a video game stream that long, but to legitimately, like, bring you guys the action and actually be enthusiastic about watching the racing and talking at the same time. Like, at some point, I'm going to get tired. I'm not going to want to talk anymore after, like, 12-plus hours. I mean, there's a reason when, if you ever watch any IMSA races, that they rotate the booth like every 3 or 4 hours. They don't keep the same guys in there for longer than like 3 or 4 hours at a time. They got to give them some sort of a break. You imagine if they just had the same 3 guys in the broadcast booth for like 24 consecutive hours? John Garrett, thanks for tuning in. Weather forecast depends on what channel you watch. Yeah, that is true. That is very true. Live in Daytona. Watched the weather forecast earlier. Showed rain starting Friday night through Sunday night. Yeah. Like I said, I usually when I check, it is on the Weather Channel. I'll use AccuWeather every now and then, but I feel like Weather Channel it seems more accurate to me personally. It seems like it's closer in temperature to what, like, if the news is on and it'll show like the temperature at the bottom of the screen or whatever where it shows the time. It's usually like closer to that than what AccuWeather is. I feel like AccuWeather is a couple degrees off consistently. That's the only reason I really use my Weather Channel app more. Can't wait till NASCAR 25 comes out next year. Me neither. Will the return of the Brickyard bring back the Winston Million? I wish they did something like that. I have been a very strong advertiser, I guess, for this. Guess they're going to start. Yeah, I just mentioned at the start of the stream, they usually start these things on time, 8:15. It's 8:22. They still have not had a car on track yet. I'm making sure that Hulu on my phone isn't, like, delayed. It is not. They're on an ad break right now. They've gone to the booth a few times over the last, like, 10 to 15 minutes, but we have not had a car on track yet. So I guess 8:30-ish. Cover Indy 500 qualifying. I don't plan on it, considering the fact that that's going to be going on the same time as, like, Xfinity and truck races the week before. I'm not going to be able to do that. Well, granted, I think the Xfinity series would have off that week, but the All-Star race would be going on. They'll probably have heat races again at North Wilkesboro for those, so I'll plan on doing a stream for those as well as the qualifying, obviously, and the truck series race that day. So between that and then obviously the Cup race the next day. Now, I don't plan on doing qualifying for the Indy 500, but definitely going to do the race. Bummed Road America got axed from the schedule again. Really good racing. Yeah, I will say, being there in person, beautiful area of the country, but being at other road courses, the track is so freaking big that you can't see more than 2 turns. There's a lot more trees as well, both on the exterior and even the interior of the race course, like even in the infield and stuff. So you can't see as much. I went to Watkins Glen a couple years before that, and I was able to see a lot more of the racetrack. Really, the only sat basically right about the start-finish line main grandstands on the front stretch, relatively higher up, not like all the way at the top, but probably 2/3 of the way up the grandstands. And you could see turn 1 through the S's. You couldn't see the bus stop, but the exit of turn 5 into 6 and 7, like you could see that. Like, pretty much everything from like going into the bus stop to, I should say, coming out of the S's, that long straightaway leading into the bus stop you couldn't see, and then you can kind of split through the trees, I guess, on the exit of the bus stop, but there wasn't really much you could see there. You can kind of faintly see cars zooming by in the distance, but anyway, fact of the matter is there was a lot more to be able to see there. I've been at a couple other road courses as well. There's certain seating areas at like Mid-Ohio you could see more. Indianapolis, not really much, but even on the oval configuration, you can't see much of the racetrack. The grandstands in the infield section of the racetrack just takes up way too much for vision and blocks it out quite significantly. I'd imagine you could probably see more like 30, 40 plus years ago than what you could now. All right, we will pull the raw feed back up and running once again. Reason being, we have a car on the racetrack. Carson Hocevar will be the first driver to make his time trial run at the Daytona 500. He's locked into the Daytona 500. Again, he will be running full-time for Spire Motorsports in the 77 car this season. He has 9 career Cup Series starts. All in 2024. Of course, his first career start was at Gateway. He was running top 15 in that race. Filling in for Corey LaJoie. LaJoie did run that race, but he was running the 9 car for Chase Elliott. That was a week after Elliott had gotten suspended following his incident with Denny Hamlin in the Coca-Cola 600 last season. So that was his first career start. Impressed. He was able to get several more starts, both in the Spire Motorsport entries as well as the 42 car for Legacy Motor Club on a handful of occasions as well. So he's got minimal Cup Series experience, very minimal Xfinity experience. In fact, he actually has more Cup starts than Xfinity starts, only 5 career Xfinity starts, but Cup Series, again, 9. And trying to get that first top 10 finish. We'll see how he does this weekend. He made the championship 4 last year in the Truck Series as well. 4th place overall finish in points with 4 wins. Once again, he is the first driver to make a lap. This is the actual time trial lap right now. His warm-up lap is already done. Once you get to the start-finish line, the first time after pulling out of the pits, that times your lap. You get 1 lap, and then you come right back on in, and the next guy is usually already rolling out onto the racetrack once you get about midway down the back straight on your time lap. At the line, a 50.589 for Carson Hocevar. Right around a 49 flat is going to be where you're going to want to be if you're going to want to qualify on the front row for the Daytona 500. Kyle Larson had about a 49.2 in his pole lap last season, 2 seasons ago, and slightly slower than that last season for Alex Bowman. 49.2, 49.3, right around there, I think, is going to be where you're going to want to be. And again, Hocevar is already timed into the show. And because he will more than likely not be on the front row after tonight, he will have to race for his starting spot in the 500 tomorrow night in the duels. The odd numbers will set up the inside row for the dual race number 1. I should say the entirety of dual race number 1. And then dual race number 2 will be the even number based off qualifying tonight. 50.098, about 49 hundredths of a second quicker for Anthony Alfredo on lap 2. Alfredo actually has 1 career top 10 finish, and it came in his only full-time season in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2021 with Front Row Motorsports. So he actually has had a rookie season already. This is his 2nd season in the NASCAR Cup Series. He'll be running on a part-time basis and full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series this year. That is the first of 6 open entries as well for Alfredo. And again, timing in at a 50.098. Zane Smith on the racetrack in the 71. Another Spire Motorsports entry this weekend. This is a 3rd entry that will be running just a part-time schedule this season. Smith and others, I'm sure, will fill in, but not running full-time, and this is not a chartered car either. So again, this is a chartered car. I apologize for that. And he is running full-time. I don't know why I said he's running part-time. He is running full-time. Sorry. This is like the first big stream of the year. I'm already fumbling it, just 3 drivers in. 9 career Cup starts for Zane Smith. Former Truck Series champion 2022. Not to mention, he actually finished runner-up in the standings for the Truck Series in 2020 and 2021 before winning the championship in 2022. Down season last year, ended up finishing 7th in points. Nowhere near as consistent as the 3 seasons prior to that, but maybe his eyes were set on Cup already. He is here. He has made his way. We'll see if he can make it into the Daytona 500 as well. He actually qualified for the Daytona 500. He was one of the open entry cars last season. Not the case this year, though. Zane did time in 2nd, right in between Hocevar and Alfredo. 0.3 of a second off of Alfredo's lap time. 50.485. Ryan Preece on the racetrack. First time he's made a lap at Daytona since flipping in the summer race last season. 23rd in points overall for Ryan Preece last year. Looking to improve on that in 2024. Only 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s in all 36 races ran. He did not miss a race at all last year despite that gnarly wreck at Daytona in that regular season finale. And he is looking light years ahead of Anthony Alfredo, so it looks like Ryan Preece is going to get to the top of the charts here. We'll see exactly where he'll time in. This will be the first driver to run a 49-second lap time sub 50 seconds based off of where the ghost car is for him and where Alfredo was. And yep, 49.952 for Ryan Preece. 10th and a half ahead of Anthony Alfredo, so Preece now at the top of the charts. Justin Haley in the 51 full-time for Rick Ware Racing this season. He ran full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series last year with colleague racing, last 2 seasons in fact. 1 top 5 last year and 6 top 10s for Haley with colleague racing. And a 26th place points finish in 2023 as well. Interesting to see what he's going to do. Heavier alliance being formed with Rick Ware Racing and RFK Racing. So maybe that could bring some added funding needed for Haley. Part of the reason why he did make the jump. He's a very accomplished super speedway racer in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and Fords have been fairly dominant at the super speedways with the next-gen car. They did have a body change throughout the course of the offseason, so it'll still be interesting to see how that will factor in. We'll get a better idea of how the Fords are going to race on super speedways tomorrow night in the duels. But if they look as competitive as they did last year and the year before that, it's going to be hard to vote for a non-Ford driver to go to victory lane. I think Justin Haley could be one of the long shots for this weekend. Haley's going to time in 3rd quickest between Anthony Alfredo and Zane Smith, a 50.226 for Justin Haley. Again, 3rd overall of the 5 drivers who have made a lap. And we've got another part-timer on the racetrack and another open entry. This is the 2nd open entry driver to run a lap here tonight. David Reagan back with RFK Racing. Of course, that's where he got his start in the NASCAR Cup Series at the then Roush Fenway Racing. Drove the 6 car, actually won at Daytona with that said race team in the summer race back in 2011. He also has another super speedway win in 2013 with Front Row Motorsports. First career win at the time for that organization, a 1-2 finish, classic race. The race itself, arguably one of the better ones in the 2010s at Talladega. Dramatic finish that day. He's been very, very good on super speedways throughout the course of his career and even into his part-time career since retiring from full-time competition in the NASCAR Cup Series. Justin Haley has actually finished in the top 10 in 3 of his last 4 races at Daytona. All of those with the next-gen car. So if you're looking for somebody to potentially pull off an upset top 10 finish, this is the guy. RFK dominated this summer race last season. Looked very good in both Atlanta races. Led some laps at Talladega as well in the fall. I think that David Reagan, another one of those underdog picks, just like Justin Haley. Reagan timed in 3rd quickest as well, with a 50.2 flat. Next up on the board, A.J. Allmendinger, demoting himself back to the Xfinity Series full-time after 1 full-time Cup Series season, after obviously a longer Cup Series career in yesteryear with Penske Racing and JTG Doherty Racing, but was back in Xfinity full-time in his return to NASCAR. Had a great Xfinity Series career resurrection, really, in the NASCAR ranks. Got his way to Cup and did win a race last season at the Charlotte Roval, final road course race of that year. Allmendinger back, though, to run the Daytona 500. He has never won on an oval in the NASCAR Cup Series, and we'll see if he can maybe rewrite that this weekend. Allmendinger 21st in points overall last year in the Cup Series with that 1 win, 4 top 5s, and 7 top 10 finishes. Allmendinger going to time in 3rd quickest with a 50.101. Margin between 1st and 2nd right now on our time trials is right around a 10th and a half. 3rd open entry driver and driver number 8 of the night, BJ McLeod for Live Fast Motorsports. Usually this is a chartered entry, sold their charter towards the end of last season, so this is a non-chartered ride and currently unsponsored for the weekend. Hopefully they can pick some sponsorship up throughout the course of this weekend leading into the 500 if he does qualify. Again, 2 drivers will qualify their way in on time tonight. And currently, BJ McLeod is not tracking well to catching David Reagan, who's the 2nd of the first 2 open entry cars. Alfredo, second overall, first of the open entry cars, and David Reagan, fourth overall, and second of the 2 open entry cars. BJ McLeod lacking behind right now. And it looks like McLeod is going to have to race his way in through the duels tomorrow night. Hopefully BJ can make his way back in. He's got 2 career top 10s in the last 3 summer Daytona races. So if he does get in the show, again, another one of those potential underdog picks for a top 10 run. Things can go his way, get in the draft. But single car speed obviously not there for McLeod tonight. 8th of 8. Timed in with a 50.749. Up next is now John Hunter Nemechek in the 42 car for Legacy Motor Club. Legacy Motor Club making the switch to Toyota this season after running Chevy really for the last several years, even before the Legacy Motor Club name change. Back in the Richard Petty Motorsport days, they were Chevy once Dodge went away from NASCAR. I think they had some Ford years in there as well, the Marcus Ambrose days. They're in the late 2000s. This is also not Nemechek's first career season in the NASCAR Cup Series. He will not be a rookie this year, as he was a rookie in 2020. He had 3 top 10s that season with the 38 team at Front Row Motorsports. Decided to demote himself, work on his racecraft a little bit more, and try to just go win races and race for championships in the lower series. And in fact, last season, his best statistical Xfinity Series season was 7 wins. Fortunately, was not able to get the championship, 4th overall in the point standings after making the championship for last season. Not a fast start for Nemechek, by the way, right now. 8th out of 9. Timed in with a 50.608. Last of all of the chartered entries that have qualified thus far. Riley Herbst next on the racetrack, and he is tracking in the green as he passes the start-finish line. We have a Ford at the top of the charts right now. Herbst is another Ford. He is the second of 2 Rick Ware Racing entries this weekend. And this is a chartered entry as well, so Riley Herbst rather, will be locked into the Daytona 500 despite what happens today. But even if he did have to drive his way in either tonight or tomorrow, looked like he'd be able to do so, as he is still pacing very close with Ryan Preece right now for that top spot. And at the line, he did get him by 6/1000ths of a second, a 49.946 for Riley Herbst. Had a solid run, by the way, in last year's Daytona 500. Ended up with a top 10, 10th place finish, and in the summer race was in contention for a large portion of that final stage. Large majority of that final stage, he was running inside the top 5. Our first former Daytona 500 champion is now on the racetrack tonight, Austin Dillon, the 2018 Daytona 500 winner. Will be the 11th driver to make a lap here today. And also a former pole winner of the Daytona 500 as well. Back in his rookie campaign in 2014. Chevrolet has qualified on the pole in the last 11 Daytona 500s, trying to make it 12 in a row today. I asked you guys before the start of the stream in the community tab if they would continue that streak to 12, and majority of you said yes, which I was kind of expecting, but was not expecting 81% to say yes. Only 19% of the, at the time, 38 votes as of about 7:30 tonight said that they were not going to qualify on the pole once again. Down year for Austin Dillon last season as well. Only 1 top 5 finish, 7 top 10s, and a 29th place points finish. He had a pretty hefty penalty in the first third of the season, which put him back and practically in a must-win situation to qualify for the playoffs as well. Definitely going to need a bounce-back year this year, and hopefully looking to be competitive enough to get back into the postseason. He's a 4-time NASCAR Cup Series winner. And he has qualified for the playoffs 5 times in his NASCAR Cup career, but again, last season did not, so looking to get back into that this year. 2/10 of a second, Austin Dillon, by the way, was able to time in ahead of Riley Herbst. So the top time currently is a 49.745. You never know. They might be quick enough to at least get into the top 10 and get into that second session, but we'll have to wait and see, obviously. Once again, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content if you haven't yet. Live commentary streams just like this all race weekend long and all year long throughout the course of the season as well. Austin Dillon's your favorite driver. Awesome. David Clark, thanks for tuning in. Cars look like they're sitting still going 180 miles per hour. It does. When there's only one on the track especially. Linda Leverett, thanks for tuning in also. Yep, 6 consecutive seasons Petty's team ran Chevys. You are correct there. For anybody who I have not shouted out throughout the course of the stream, again, appreciate all of you tuning in. Let me give you guys the live commentary. I'll let you listen into the broadcast booth here and there throughout the course of the night. Of course, Kevin Harvick, the new addition to the Fox booth this season. I heard the NASCAR Mexico Series race is pretty good. I didn't get to watch any of it. If there's a way for me to go back and rewatch it, I probably should, because I've heard it was a pretty good race. No idea who won it or how it happened, but I heard some very good comments over the social media waves of that race. Ross Chastain's your favorite driver. It's good to have like a young driver who's performing very, very well, so you know you're going to be a fan of theirs for a decade or two to come. Don't have to worry about finding a new driver down the line anytime soon. '44 car on the racetrack now for New York Racing. J.J. Yaley was the late entry to that race car this weekend. And by late, I mean very late. I saw that at about 3 o'clock this afternoon that it was announced that he was going to run and or attempt to run the Daytona 500. He does have to either time his way in tonight or race his way in tomorrow. New York Racing did not try to qualify for the Daytona 500 last year, but in the inaugural season with the next gen of 2022, Greg Biffle was able to race his way in through the duels into the Daytona 500. He actually had the last transfer spot for that year's event, started last in the field. As for J.J. Yaley today, we'll see how he does as he hits the start-finish line. Right now, to at least move into the top 2 of the, once he's done 4 open entries, still 2 more to go after this, he needs to time in with a better lap time than a 50.2 flat, which is where David Reagan sits at 6th overall. Anthony Alfredo at a 50.098 overall is the first of the open entry cars. And we'll have a couple more drivers going before we see the next open entry car on track. Very, very slow, it seems to appear here for J.J. Yaley. And he will be last, a 51.261. That was almost a half a second slower than the next closest car on racetrack to him of B.J. McLeod, who was at a 50.749. So J.J. Yaley will have to race his way in, much like B.J. McLeod in the Daytona 500 tomorrow night. They sit 11th and 12th of the 12 drivers who have already made a lap tonight. And the next driver on track is going to be Daniel Hemrick. He'll be driving full-time this season for Colleague Racing in the 31 car. He's the 2021 NASCAR Xfinity Series champion, and he's actually the 2019 NASCAR Cup Series Rookie of the Year. That was with Richard Childress Racing, and just the only season he had with that organization before going back to the Xfinity Series full-time. And parting ways with Richard Childress Racing entirely at that point before they brought in Tyler Reddick, who was coming off the heels of back-to-back Xfinity Series championships. And Daniel Hemrick is going to time in right behind his teammate A.J. Allmendinger at a 50.133 on the grid. Right about 300ths of a second behind Allmendinger. They are currently 5th and 6th overall. Noah Gragson back in the NASCAR Cup Series and with an upgraded equipment, supposedly. We'll see how that goes for SHR this year. They do have to make some steady improvements to call them upgraded equipment, but needless to say, in the 10 car full-time this year, taking over for Eric Almirola, who retired from full-time NASCAR Cup Series competition at the end of last season. For Gragson, last year, he ran 21 races in the 42-car Legacy Motor Club and had several races ran under his belt with Colleague Racing and Beard Motorsports back in 2022 as well. So he's had pretty much altogether about a full season of NASCAR Cup Series competition, but was officially a rookie last year. And he does have a top 5 finish, in fact, at Daytona in the NASCAR Cup Series. That came in the summer race back in 2022. Looking to qualify for his 3rd career Daytona 500. He's already in the show. And not quite as quick as his teammate Ryan Preece, but he's up inside the top 5 currently, timing in at 4th with a 49.79. A 49.979 for Noah Gragson. Corey LaJoie now on the racetrack, age 32, out of Concord, North Carolina. Another season with Spire Motorsports upcoming for LaJoie, full-time at that. 25th in points, career high last year. Also had 2 top 5 finishes with 3 top 10s in 2023. In his last 9 points-paying races at the Daytona International Speedway, the NASCAR Cup Series, Corey LaJoie has actually favored himself in getting 4 top 5 finishes in those last 9 races, including most notably leading a bunch of laps in that 2022 race, and 2021 for that matter. He's had very good runs. He's not just limping his way home to these good runs. He is legitimately out there contending for these top 10s on overall race pace. Nearly got a win at Atlanta on the newly reconfigured Super Speedway in 2022 as well. Wreck going for the race lead at that time and on the final lap of the race at that. Maybe we'll see Corey LaJoie win one of these Super Speedway races in the not-so-distant future if he keeps at those efforts. Chase Briscoe will be the 3rd of the 4 SHR Fords to make a run here tonight. 30th in points overall for Briscoe last year, a very much down season. I think he had a points penalty in there as well, but it wasn't very good before that even. 4 top 5 finishes and 8 top 10s after winning a race, not only making the playoffs, but having a top 10 points finish in 2022. So a huge step backwards for that 14 team, a sophomore slump, if you would. He did end up finishing 3rd in the Daytona 500 in 2022 as well, so he's had a good run at this racetrack in this very race specifically. So we'll see if he can replicate that again. Fords have been very good with the next-gen car in the Super Speedway, so there's a good way to kick off a good start to the season for Chase Briscoe. It could be this weekend, and even next weekend for that matter, at Atlanta as well. Back-to-back Super Speedways to start the year for the first time ever in any of the 3 series in NASCAR. 4th quickest for Chase Briscoe, right between his teammates of Preece and Gragson on the board, a 49.966 for Briscoe. Austin Dillon still at the top of the charts, 1 Chevy up there, and he's backed by 4 Fords in the top 5. Can BJ McLeod, JJ Yaley going to have to race their way in of the open drivers tomorrow night? Still 2 more open drivers yet to qualify, one of which is on track right now. Kaz Grala, the 36, a 3rd Front Row Motorsports entry, has 7 career Cup Series starts and 2 top 10s in those 7 career starts, including at Daytona, but not on the oval. It was on the road course, filling in for a sick Austin Dillon, who had COVID back in the 2020 season when they ran the inaugural race at the Daytona road course. And he actually ended up having a very solid run that day. Got a top 10 finish in his first career Cup start. Unfortunately for Gralla, he is very slow on the apron of the racetrack, right around oval turn 3 right now. I don't know why I said oval turn 3, but right around turn 3. And still rolling at a slow pace. This is not something we wanted to see, and for the second consecutive year, it looks like one of the open entries for the Daytona 500 is failing to even get up to speed. With this being said, if he's not able to make a lap, it looks like Anthony Alfredo is going to qualify his way in on time for the Daytona 500 here tonight. Alfredo currently sits 6th overall, and it looks like that is going to be the case. He is celebrating right now. It does not look like Zane, or rather the 36, Smith was in that car last year, the 36 of Kaz Gralla is going to be able to make a lap, so Gralla is now going to also have to qualify his way in on time tomorrow. So you have 3 open entries currently sitting in the last 3 spots. Gralla, though, not going to be able to make a lap today, and highly unfortunate for him. Has to be frustrated with this unfortunate circumstance. And this is why we need practice, NASCAR. I was afraid that this could happen 2 years in a row, and I mentioned it right before we got started. Gotta be a frustrating feeling for everybody involved with that 36 team. They were able to get their way into the Daytona 500 last year. It's going to be a little bit more stressful when they unload for the dual race tomorrow night. So unfortunately, Gralla was not able to make a lap. Once again, Anthony Alfredo is now locked into the Daytona 500, and here he is with Jamie Little.
This is insane. I mean, we're just talking about every possible scenario we might find ourselves in today, tomorrow, and obviously Sunday, but to make it to Sunday is a challenge. It's such a competitive field of open cars and drivers behind the wheel, and I'm just really thankful for the Beard family giving me this opportunity and Death Wish Coffee coming on board. We have clearly a fast Chevrolet Camaro. I mean, we beat a lot of big teams so far. There's a lot of cars to go, but to know that we're in and could not have to race in tomorrow and just remove ourselves from some of the sketchy circumstances and focus on Sunday is just an amazing feeling. Congratulations, Anthony. Thank you.
This is a family race team out of Michigan with 1 full-time employee, and they're in the 500.
Well, the Beard family, you know, they have a long history in the ARCA series and things that they have done. But what a great emotion to see. It just shows you how much it means to make this race. Absolutely.
Harrison Burton will be the next car on the racetrack in the 21 for the Wood Brothers. This will be his 3rd full-time season in the NASCAR Cup Series, all with the Wood Brothers. 31st in points last year, only 2 top 10 finishes. Needs to improve on that if he's going to want a contract extension either with these guys or with another team in the NASCAR Cup Series, or he may head downwards in the NASCAR ranks. Look at the couple of drivers and where they were able to accomplish themselves in the NASCAR Cup Series prior to Harrison Burton stepping into this ride, and you can see why he would be under the hot seat he is under right now. Of course, Matt DiBenedetto making the playoffs with this team. Paul Menard, not a slouch by any means with this car, was barely missing playoff efforts in back-to-back seasons. He was in this ride, and of course Ryan Blaney able to get a win at Pocono. His first career win came with the Wood Brothers back in 2017. Made the playoffs and actually made the round of 8 that year. Not that those were the expectations for Harrison Burton, but definitely hasn't met the expectations I'm sure he or the team would have wanted to reach by now, but hopefully Season 3 will go upwards for them. Todd Gillen will be next on the racetrack. Gillen, in his 3rd full-time season with Front Row Motorsports, 28th in points last year, had 4 top 10 finishes, but get this, 11 top 15 finishes last year. If he could just get more consistency in just finishing the end of these races, he could be a dark horse for the playoffs this season by way of points. Had a points penalty in there as well, which is why he still finished 28th in points, even with those, again, 11 top 15 finishes last year. Didn't get that many stage points along the way. That will definitely hurt. With how strong this team seems to be on road courses and super speedways, not just Michael McDowell, but Ty Gillen as well. We'll see if they can maybe make a crack at it. And right now, they're looking pretty quick as well. Harrison Burton and Ty Gillen both timing in at second and third, by the way, on the leaderboard. Harrison Burton's lap time is a 49.903, 3 1,000ths of a second behind that, and a 49.906 was Gillen. Austin Cindric, next car on the racetrack. He is the 2022 Daytona 500 winner. Of course, that was the first points-paying race with the next-gen car. He was 24th in points last year with 1 top 5 and 5 top 10 finishes. Significantly down from the year before that, 2022, where he obviously won the Daytona 500 as mentioned, also had 5 top 5 finishes and 9 top 10, so nearly those statistical categories were cut in half from season 1 to season 2 with Penske. Looking to rebound this year, and right now he's tracking in the green to get the top spot over Austin Dillon. We'll see if he stays there into turns 3 and 4. He's starting to drop down into the red a little bit. Just needs to make the top 10, though, to get another go at it in session 2. And Cindric will be close to the top of the charts, but not quite there. Second overall for Austin Cindric. A 49.799 for Austin Cindric. 0.05 of a second behind Austin Dillon at the top of the charts. Final open entry driver, 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, an 83-time NASCAR Cup Series winner, and of course a 2-time Daytona 500 winner in 2006 and 2013. We're talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Jimmie Johnson. 84 car Legacy Motor Club for the second consecutive year. He will try to make the Daytona 500. He was able to qualify his way in through time trials last season. We'll see if he can do that this year. Needs to have a lap time that is better than currently David Reagan's 50.2. So going to need better than a 50.2 out of Jimmie Johnson to qualify his way in to the Daytona 500 tonight. Ran a couple of other races in the NASCAR Cup Series last season outside of the Daytona 500 with Legacy Motor Club, and looking to race even more races in 2024 with the team. Once again, they made the switch from Chevy to Toyota. He is at the line right now, and we'll see. So on the bubble, it shows him in the red, but the bubble line is 10th and not where David Reagan's at for whatever reason. And the ghost car right now, very close between David Reagan and Jimmie Johnson, and Johnson's going to need a pretty good run down the back straightaway. Reagan looking good, a half a lap in for Jimmie Johnson. It's going to be close. Through 3 and 4. Johnson's lap time is slipping just a little bit as he works his way off turn 4. And it looks like David Reagan is going to get the final qualifying entry for the Daytona 500 tonight, and Jimmie Johnson will have to race his way in to the Daytona 500 in about 24 hours' time. So David Reagan has qualified for the Daytona 500 tonight. Still 12th overall, so he will not be in session number 2. A 50.2 flat for him. Jimmie Johnson's lap time had timed in 15th overall at a 50.323. So a little over a tenth of a second difference between David Reagan and Jimmie Johnson on the charts.
Have a shot at a top 10 or top 12 starting spot, but just shows all the hard work this is buildsubmarines.com team has done. And Derek Finley, he puts a lot of effort into the race team at RFK, and I've worked with him in the past, and he has been nervous as a cat all afternoon. And so I'm really proud for Derek and proud for the whole RFK guys, and appreciate Brad Keselowski and Jack Roush giving me an opportunity to come down here to try to win a Daytona 500.
Congrats, David.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's the advent.
Next Legacy Motor Club driver is going to be Eric Jones. Big wiggle there off of turn 4 for Jones. That might cost him his opportunity to try to crack the top 10. Very close, 11th overall for Eric Jones at a 50.101. It was less than 10 one-thousandths of a second off of AJ Allmendinger's 10th place lap time. Actually, it looks like they ran the identical lap time to one another. They both ran 50.101s. Had to go past the 1,000th second lap time to get AJ Allmendinger in ahead of Jones. I don't think either one of those two times would be able to hold up into the top 10 anyway, but as we sit right now, Allmendinger's still on that cutoff spot. And open entry, Anthony Alfredo still above that cut line as well, as we've gone through half of the entries for tonight's Daytona 500 time trial session. Halfway down, half to go. If you're listening live, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content and live commentary, live streams like this for NASCAR Cup Series, Truck Series, and Xfinity Series races all season long, as well as Cup Series practice and qualifying on Saturday and Friday afternoons, whatever day they take place throughout the course of the season. On each specific race weekend, I will be right here to commentate for you guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. We have just under 100 concurrent viewers and almost at 1,000 views overall. We're not even, we're halfway through the first round, but we still got the second round still to go as well. So once again, appreciate everybody that is tuned in here today. Wednesday night live commentary. The only time you're going to see that all season, hopefully, unless we get like a monsoon on a race weekend that we have to postpone the race 3 days. But barring something like that happen where we're going to have to build an arc to get to the racetrack, it looks like this is going to be the only live commentary stream on a Wednesday all season. So I appreciate you guys on this oddball kind of a day to tune in for Daytona 500 live commentary qualifying. Matthew Dorter Bruno, thanks for tuning in. Bobby Kilmus, thanks for tuning in. Josh Berry is coming up soon. Next few drivers to qualify will be Denny Hamlin, Josh Berry, Brad Keselowski, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and defending champion Ryan Blaney will be the next 5 to hit the racetrack. Seth Thomas, thanks for tuning in. Yep, 62 car is in. We're going to take our first ad break while we're sitting out a commercial break on Fox Sports 1 right now. Again, you can watch live on Fox Sports 1, but you can obviously listen live right here on the channel as well. Yeah, 3 Roush cars on the Daytona 500. They were lethal with 2 Roush cars in the 500 the last couple of years. Just wait until we get a third one in there. And David Reagan, no slouch on the super speedways. I think that's a great pickup to have for a part-time ride at this style of racetrack and on this specific race weekend as well. Can't count Reagan out of it. I am curious to see where the other RFK Fords do qualify. They qualified just outside the top 10 last season, but still was able to get to the front and pretty much control their dual races. The year before that, 2022, they actually swept the duels at Daytona, Buescher winning one of them and Keselowski with the other. It's Brad's only win with RFK. Of course, he has not had a points-paying victory yet. And now Denny Hamlin is on the racetrack. Let's listen into the Fox booth for this one.
Your tire's too much right there. You get yourself in trouble.
He spun him a lot right there. He goes immediately for the window. There's a lot going on with one hand on the wheel at a time with the shift and trying to keep the air out of the car. And the teams and the drivers all have a plan when they come out. They want to execute it. That's what they decided they thought was best for speed. He's executing it. Denny's been so good on all the super speedway racetracks, but particularly at the Daytona 500. 3 of the last 8, just a machine.
And 5 of the last 8, top 5. You know, when you could come back with the Clash at Daytona 500 for the second time in the same year. A lot of 3s up there. A couple of 1s on the side of that car. The FedEx Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing for Denny Hamlin out of Chesterfield, Virginia.
And that is not easy to do right there with one hand on the wheel and holding everything up with your left hand up, trying to block that air. Like I say, I never did that because I wanted to be as smooth as possible with the wheel, but he's doing a pretty good job with his repaired shoulder and everything he's got going on, holding that wheel pretty straight.
Right now, the fastest Toyota, Eric Jones, 50.101, same as A.J. Allmendinger, who sits 10th. You think about all the Toyota teammates that have been in the Daytona 500, and to believe that he's the only Toyota guy to win the Daytona 500 is pretty hard to believe. A lot of good drivers in that camp. 16th for Denny Hamlin, 50.29. And I would say this is not a surprise because in past years, Toyotas have not shown all their speed on qualifying day, but boy, when it comes race time, they're ready.
They seem to handle on that last lap.
And that's what you want. You want your car to handle and be able to push and be pushed.
Josh Berry is now up on the racetrack, 33-year-old, making his, not Cup Series debut necessarily, but his Cup Series season debut. He will be a rookie for this season, despite running a handful of races last year, replacement of Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman for the few races he missed due to injuries. We'll see what Berry can do. He had a second-place finish in the spring Richmond race, his career best in the NASCAR Cup Series. And he had a couple more top 10s beyond that, ended up with 3 top 10s overall last year in just 10 starts. Not bad for somebody who was kind of thrown into the NASCAR Cup Series out of really pure randomness and honestly made the most of his opportunity, and that's what led to him getting this Cup Series ride full-time. Josh Berry is going to be just outside the top 10, 12th overall, 50.102. Denny Hamlin ended up timing in currently 17th with a 50.293. Showing Chase Elliott climbing into his car. He'll be making his lap fairly soon, but currently on the track is Brad Keselowski, former NASCAR Cup Series champion. This will be his 15th attempt at the Daytona 500. He has yet to win the Great American Race, but he is a winner of 6 at Talladega. He's also won the Summer Daytona race before as well. He's won some dual races at Daytona. He just has not won the big one. And with how good RFK was in super speedways last season, maybe this could be the year for Brad Keselowski. We'll have to wait and see. Breakout year last year for RFK, really over the last roughly decade. 8th in points for Keselowski specifically. 7 top 5 finishes and 16 top 10s in 2023. I think that was in the top echelon of drivers in top 10s last year. 15th Daytona 500 start. Once again, I already mentioned that, but still yet to win it. He is one of 3, well now 4 NASCAR Cup Series. Well, it's probably more than 4. Yeah, there's quite a few NASCAR Cup Series champions that we currently have that have not yet won the Daytona 500. Haven't gotten to them quite yet. Keselowski timing in 14th overall, right ahead of David Reagan, but pretty much about the same, 0.03 of a second quicker than his teammate. I would imagine Buescher is going to be right around there as well. We've had a lot of Fords go out on the racetrack so far, and majority of the Toyota, so we still have a bunch of Chevys yet to go, including all 4 Hendrick Motorsports Chevys. Speaking of a Chevy, we got one on the track right now, and he is the defending Daytona 500 winner, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 2 top 5s and 9 top 10s last season for Stenhouse, making the playoffs and finishing 16th overall in the points standings. His best year with JTG Doherty Racing, and probably his best or second best NASCAR Cup Series season in his Cup Series career. He's also a former pole winner of the Daytona 500 back in 2021. He qualified on the pole for that one. 2020 or 2021? One of those 2 years he qualified on the pole. Actually, I think it was 2020 because Bowman had it in 21. Hendricks had it 3 years in a row. Most of that Chevy streak has been by way of Hendrick Motorsports, but Stenhouse was the oddball in there, and a couple years after the fact, he ends up getting a win in the Great American Race. We'll see if he can do it 2 years in a row. He's a great super speedway racer, 3-time winner on super speedways in the NASCAR Cup Series, including a summer Daytona winner on top of that 500. Came back in 2017, also won at Talladega in that same season. Stenhouse ends up 17th overall. with a 50.231. Ryan Blaney next on the racetrack, and he is the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion. That's my guy. We'll see if he can make it 2 years in a row. He's a two-time runner-up in the Daytona 500, 2017 with the Wood Brothers, and in 2020, a very close battle to the line with Denny Hamlin. Hamlin edged him out for what was Hamlin's third Daytona 500 victory. Once again, 3 wins last year for Blaney, 8 top 5 finishes, and 18 top 10s. That was a career high. Career high in stage wins as well, which definitely helped catapult him towards the championship 4, along with that clutch win at Martinsville in the penultimate race. And of course, despite not winning the race at Phoenix last year, was able to win the championship with a second place finish. Ross Chastain went on to win that race. Blaney's going to get into the top 10. As of right now, he's sitting in 9th. I don't know if that's going to hold up or not. Still not in the 49-second lap barrier. I don't think it's going to hold up. We still got quite a few strong cars left, and again, quite a few Chevys yet to go. So I don't think Blaney will make it to Session 2, but as of right now, he is 9th and timed in with a 50.003. Speaking of the Hendrick Chevys, Kyle Larson is on the racetrack. He was the pole winner in 2022 for this very race. We'll see if he can get another pole in the Daytona 500. 4 wins a season ago for Larson, second in points to Ryan Blaney. 15 top 5 finishes and 18 top 10. Same amount of top 10s, but way more top 5s. The reason why Larson did kind of struggle for most of the year, despite having way more top 5s than a lot of the other competitors in the field. In fact, every competitor, he had the most top 5s if any other driver at least tied for the most. And he had a lot of DNFs, career high in DNFs last season for Larson. It was either he was contending for a race win or he was wrecking on pretty much a weekly basis. And despite having a successful season, he had some lack of success, but came on strong at the end. Again, ended up second in points. 1,100 laps led, second most in a season. Only time he led more than that in a year, of course, was his breakout 2021 season in his first year at Hendrick Motorsports, where he went on to win the championship. By the way, Kyle Larson, top of the charts. Slipped by me. It happened quick. No surprise either, 49.730. What is a surprise is that Austin Dillon's lap time was only 15 one-thousandths of a second slower than Larson. So Austin Dillon right there. And Kyle Larson not that far ahead of him. And Larson, I would imagine he's going to pick up into that second group, assuming he does make it into Group 2, which I would imagine he would. We'll see how much he picks up, because when he qualified on the pole for the 500 a couple years ago, it was a 49.2, and he's a half a second behind that. I was expecting lap times to be a little quicker tonight. I'm not sure exactly what the wind is blowing like at the racetrack or how heavy the winds may be in comparison to what it was a year or two ago. Joey Logano looking significantly quicker than his teammate Ryan Blaney on the racetrack. Logano's a former Daytona 500 winner back in 2015. Last season, took a pretty big step backwards. In fact, it was the first time he had finished outside the top 10 in points since 2017. 12th place points finish for Logano, just 1 win. 11 top 5 finishes along with 17 top 10s. That only win came very early in the year on the first super speedway race at Atlanta. Lack of consistency compared to his teammate Ryan Blaney was large part of the struggle, especially into the playoffs. But Logano to the top of the charts with a 49.641. Again, significantly quicker than Blaney, who is currently 11, not even in the top 10. Logano to the top of the charts. And now it is William Byron. So 2 consecutive runs in a row have gotten to the top of the leaderboard, and William Byron might have a chance at it again. Guy who has qualified on the pole at a significant number of different racetracks, including right here at Daytona, another former Daytona 500 pole award winner. When you're in a Hendrick Motorsports Chevy and you come to Daytona in the same weekend every year, you got a shot at the pole, and a pretty legitimate one at that. We'll see what Byron can do. He's definitely in the green to get above that bubble line in the top 10, but where is he going to pace compared to Logano and Larson? And Byron will time in 4th overall quickest, so not quite as quick as Larson. Logano, he'll more than likely have another chance, though, to try to get up there. 49.776 for William Byron. By the way, stats for William Byron last year: third in points, 6 wins, most in his career, and in fact the most of any driver last season, tied for most top 5s along with his teammate Kyle Larson at 15, most top 10s of any driver last season with 21, and also over 1,000 laps led for William Byron. If he can continue that success at the young age he is at right now, he is going to rise up the ranks in NASCAR. Well, he's already at the top rank, but rise up the all-time leaderboard ranks here once we get a decade or so down the line from now. Mark my words. Tyler Reddick is going to be the first of the 223-11 Toyotas on the racetrack. 6th in points for Reddick last year, career high, I should say. 2 wins, which was 1 down from the season before, but a lot more consistent with 10 top 5 finishes and 16 top 10s, which again led him to a higher points-paying finish in his first season with his new team. And if that's what his first season with his new team looks like, you can only imagine what years 2, 3, and beyond would look like for Tyler Reddick. Can't wait to see what he does this season. And Reddick, much like most of the Toyotas outside of the top 10, looks like Reddick timed in 25th overall of a 50.334. So again, the Toyota is not looking very quick in qualifying tonight. And to get a better starting spot for the Daytona 500, they're going to have to make some work in the duels tomorrow evening. And speaking of Toyotas, we have Christopher Bell up next. So back-to-back Toyotas to make a lap time. Bell was in the championship for a season ago. 2 consecutive years he has made the championship for. 6 poles last season, which was the most of any other driver. 10 top 5 finishes with 2 wins and 19 top 10s. Had the 3rd most top 10s of any driver in the Cup Series last year. Part of why he made it to the championship 4. Quiet but good year, nonetheless, for Christopher Bell, who is only going to be in his 4th full-time season with Joe Gibbs Racing and just his 5th full-time season in the NASCAR Cup Series, and he's already made back-to-back Championship 4 appearances. I definitely think this is one of the bright spots in the future of the sport. Bell, like every other Toyota, though, well outside the top 10. 22nd overall with a 50.251 for Christopher Bell. Well, here we go. Got the 3-time Daytona 500 pole winner, Alex Bowman, coming up next. Got a commercial break right now on FS1. Missed 3 races last season was Bowman. 10 top 10 finishes and 4 top 5s with the 33 starts made. Definitely had a significant decline in performance once he came back from his vertebrae fracture, which happened in a sprint car accident in May of last season. As far as the Daytona 500 or pole awards go for Alex Bowman, get this stat. He's got 3 career poles for the Daytona 500. He has only 4 career poles entirely. Any track, 4 of them, and 3 of them are for this race. It's absurd. We'll see if he can do it again. Joey Logano, though, putting a fight to the Chevys at the top of the board right now. Again, about 800ths of a second quicker than Larson. We got another session yet to go. And we still have 2 more Hendrick cars yet to hit the track, but we'll see what they can do. We'll take a quick ad break. Get back to the action. Listening live on KRC. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content if you haven't already. 49s to advance to Session 2, yeah, for sure. I'm surprised 49-9s are holding up. I didn't think they were going to. Honestly, like when Priest, Briscoe, and Herbst went early and had the 49-9s just based off of, the faster cars running 49-2s, 49-5s from my recollection of the last couple of years, I would have imagined that was going to be what it was going to take to very, very good race speed. He could be a favorite for the 500. I actually picked him to win the Daytona 500 last year, and he won his dual race, which I also predicted. I predicted him to win his dual and win the 500. He won his dual and finished second in the 500s. And it was based off of just how that car looked in the speed charts. with qualifying and knowing how good the Fords are in the super speedways in the next gen era, that could be the case again here. I dwindled it down. I didn't talk about this yet on the stream, but I dwindled it down between 6 drivers coming into the weekend of who I thought could win the Daytona 500, and I had it between 4 Fords: Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney were the 4 Fords I was leaning on. And I was also leaning on Denny Hamlin just because he's that freaking good at super speedways, even though Toyotas with the next gen haven't been great on super speedways. And then the only Chevy driver I had in there was Kyle Busch because he was very good last season on pretty much every super speedway. Had a win at Talladega, led a lot of laps in the Daytona 500, and he's been pretty good at Daytona, even slightly before going to RCR. Had a couple of top 10s there in the early 2020s with Gibbs. A third in 2019 as well. So Alex Bowman on the racetrack. Up around the high side of the racetrack right now for his warm-up lap. Just trying to get that extra little bit of a run off the banking on the get up to speed lap, and then you'll see everybody dive down to the double yellow line once they get into the tri-oval for their actual timed lap. Last drivers to go. We have 5 more in this first session. Alex Bowman, Ty Gibbs, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, we have more than that. That was only page 1. Bowman, Gibbs, Busch, Elliott, Chastain, Buescher, Truex, McDowell, Suarez, and Wallace still to go yet. Yeah, we have more than 5. I don't know why. I saw the last name on the first page. I forgot I had a whole second page of notes. All right. Bowman is out there, and he's actually not looking like he is in contention for a top 10 right now, which would just get him out of the first round. It's going to be close between him and Chase Briscoe for the current final transfer spot. It does scare me how many Fords are in the top 10 right now. I know we have quite a few Chevys still to go, but again, Fords don't usually qualify well, they race well, and now they're qualifying well, and what does that mean for the race? We'll find out again tomorrow night, 7 p.m. right here on the channel. Bowman did not make it to the top 10. 12th overall, 49.996. Unbelievable. I think we're going to see history change, guys. How many Fords are up there right now? And you have one Hendrick car that didn't even make it to round number 2, and this just kind of adds insult to legitimate injury for Alex Bowman from a season ago where he left off and kicking off this season. I know it's just qualifying for the first race of the year, but definitely a crazy circumstance to happen there. Shocking. Don't expect Ty Gibbs to get in the top 10. There's no Toyotas in the top 10 right now. He's the second to last Toyota to make his way onto the racetrack. Gibbs, a Rookie of the Year champion last season in his first full-time season in the NASCAR Cup Series. 18th in points overall. 4 top 5 finishes and 10 top 10s. Looking to improve on that in year 2. Going to have to hope for a better starting spot for the 500 than what he's going to be based off qualifying here. I'd be shocked if he's in the top 20. Just because all of his other Toyota counterparts are outside the top 20, at least of the Joe Gibbs Toyotas. The only car in the top 20 right now of a Toyota is Eric Jones, currently 16th. And yeah, not a top 20 for Gibbs. It looks like 21st, so we still have quite a few other cars yet to go. 50.220 for Gibbs. Next up, Kyle Busch.
Cocky. I mean, yeah.
Second fastest Toyota.
Hey, Austin Dillon was really fast. Teammate, keep an eye on Kyle Busch.
Kyle would like to get off this list. Cup champions without a Daytona 500 win. In this race, 6 of them.
So close last year.
So this is his 20th Daytona 500. And that counts the year that he qualified for the 500, but crashed hard in the Saturday race, went to the hospital, didn't get to run for the next several weeks, in fact.
Don't forget, at lap 500 miles into this race last year, that car was in the lead. Green, white checker didn't go the best.
He's finished second in the 500. He's started 4th here 4 times.
Working for Richard Childress And you know this, Clint. Coming to the Daytona 500, you better have your stuff together in the engine shop, in the race shop, because he's like Rick Hendrick. When he comes down here, he expects to have a chance at the pole, and he wants to win the race.
The Zone Chevrolet for Kyle Busch times in 6. That will knock Chase Briscoe out of the top 10 and move Ryan Preece to the bubble. Chase Elliott, the Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet for Rick Hendrick. This will be his 9th Daytona 500. First 2 years here, he started on the pole. That incomplete season last year with the big goose egg in the win column. Not that many laps left. Still decent average finish, but not the season he would have wanted.
You're not going to see that again, boys. Yeah, I agree. Ready to go. Call it redemption car, whatever. I'm going to tell you, this 9 car is back.
And you know what I liked? I love the way that he has talked. He seems comfortable, relaxed. He looks like he's in good shape. From everything that he's done, he seems happy, and I think that he just never got into that last year. He was frustrated and just never got in a rhythm. But I think after he wins the first race, I think we should drive down to Georgia.
Yes, go to the billiards room. What's it called?
We're gonna go.
The horn. I want to honk the horn.
You think they let us ring that siren down there?
Well, you can do that. I'll drink a beer. How about that?
We'll do both.
All right, Elliott is 5th. That makes 5 Chevys in the top 10 and 5 Fords for Ross Chastain, Florida Melon Man, and the Busch Light Chevrolet for Trackhouse Racing. 5 Daytona 500s for Chastain, a best start of 19th, the best finish of 7th.
One of the best activation sponsors there is, hands down. Glad it landed at this driver with this camp. It'll only make a guy like Ross Chastain more popular, which he needs to be. He does things on the racetrack nobody else can do, puts people on their feet.
Okay, I think we're good.
Chris Buescher and the Fastenal board for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing had 3 wins last year. They all came in the last 15 races of the season, and they included the regular season finale here at Daytona.
Chris Buescher is a hidden gem. I love the way he races. He's always there at the end of the races. He's good at figuring out his car when it's not good, and can figure out how to communicate, tell his team what he needs, and that's what it takes to be a great driver. You have to be able to talk to your team and tell them what you need, and be able to not make those mistakes. And I think Chris Buescher does that.
It's identical to the way a conversation or interview goes with him. It just gets the job done, checks all the boxes, but it's kind of quiet.
Yes, and that's okay. And I think with Brad coming over and doing everything that he's done at RFK, it's really allowed Chris to shine and do the things that he did last year.
The chrome number shining on the racetrack.
One of only 2 drivers to finish in the top 5 in both Daytona races last year. Buescher 14th fastest. And right now, the top 10 that move on include 6 Chevys and 4 Fords.
Larry, I like what you pointed out here. These Toyotas, they are definitely slow on the speed chart.
Yeah, honestly, they're slower than I anticipated. I didn't think they would be a contender for the front row, but definitely slower than I anticipated.
But always there when handling's on the line, and 15, 20 laps in and matter.
Art Truex 24th. Michael McDowell, winner of the Daytona 500 just a couple of years ago in the Loves.
I think we're back right now. Sorry, I accidentally hit the power button. Oh, man. I apologize, everybody. I think we're okay now. My goodness. I was plugging the laptop in and my hand hit the power button on the side and I shut the screen off. So I think we lost the stream for a brief second. Apologize for that. Hopefully we're back. Let me know in the chat if we're okay. But I think we're okay now. I had the race audio on, so I'm not sure if you were able to at least hear everything while I was trying to get this back up and running, but we should be good to go now. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me. That was all on me. I hit the power button. I was just trying to plug it in, and my thumb ended up hitting the power button and turned the screen off. And then I got it back on, and then I didn't. Yeah, good thing I didn't, hit the power button on the airplane. Yeah, sorry for that. We're back up and running. We're still in session number 1 right now. Just to recap some of the times. Currently, actually, we'll just go through the top 10. Chase Elliott ended up having a 49.782. He's going to make it into session 2. McDowell will also make it with a 49.783. Kyle Busch is 8th quickest right now with 49.824. And I do believe he is also in. Yep. So Kyle Busch will be in the next round of drivers as well. So those were the couple that you ended up missing. I think you only missed 3 of them, unfortunately. Sorry for Chase Elliott fans that you missed his time trial. He'll get another shot at it, though, because he's in the top 5, so he will definitely have another opportunity at it. Hopefully not too many of you dipped out. I don't know how many people we had watching prior to that happening. But I think we had quite a few dip out. We're like, oh, this again. I don't even know how I did that, to be completely honest. I forgot the power button was on this side and whatever. It's in the past. Daniel Suarez did not make it into the top 10. 50.058 for Suarez, 19th overall. So he will not be running again tonight. And the last driver to make a lap in Group 1 is going to be Bubba Wallace, who made the playoffs for the first time in his NASCAR Cup career last season. 10th in points overall. Top 5s, he had 5 of them. Also 10 top 10s in 2023. He's a 2-time Daytona 500 runner-up driver. 2017 and 2022 were the 2 years that Wallace ended up getting the runner-up spot in the Great American Race. And because the Toyotas have not been great in qualifying today, I didn't really expect Wallace to get into the top 10 here. He will not, which means Harrison Burton's actually going to get the final transfer spot into session number 2. None of the open entries were able to last inside the top 10, so all chartered entries will run again, and no Toyotas inside the top 20 in qualifying tonight. Let's see where Wallace showed up on the speed chart here. I don't see him anywhere on here for whatever reason. Where's he at? I don't know what he timed in at. On our screen, it's showing he hasn't made a lap yet, but I know that that's not true. It's not showing up on here. Oh, hang on. It might show up now. 28th. It wasn't on there until just now. 50.208 for Wallace, so 28th quickest. So the 10 drivers who will make one more lap in their shot for a front row starting spot in the Daytona 500 will be Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Austin Dillon, William Byron, Chase Elliott, Michael McDowell 6th, Austin Cindric in 7th, Kyle Busch 8th, Ross Chastain 9th, and Harrison Burton will round out the top 10. Now we should see times pick up a little bit from Group 1 to Group 2. We tend to see that with the super speedways in Group 2 of qualifying with this knockout format. How much quicker? We'll have to wait and see. And Joey Logano getting that top spot in Group 1 is very interesting. We got the rest Chevys behind him inside the top 5, but Logano, the lone Ford at the top. And how about a shout out again, Michael McDowell 6th, Austin Cindric 7th. There are a couple other good Fords inside the top 10 who were also within just over a 10th behind Joey Logano. So I think anybody realistically inside that top probably 6 still have a shot at the pole here. Reverse running order of how they finished Group 1 is how they're going to end up setting up Group 2. So Harrison Burton, who was 10th, is going to be the first driver to make his second lap, and Joey Logano will then be the final driver to make his second lap. And honestly, because he was one of the first of the top 10 drivers to make his first lap, and he's going to be one of the last, or the very last driver to make a lap time here in Group 2, I think Logano actually has a really good chance to get this pole. Probably going to get that engine cooled off the quickest compared to any other driver around him. Caroline Wilcox, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I was trying to chat also that I shut the power off, but unfortunately with shutting the power off, I couldn't chat with you guys there for that entirety of me trying to get it on. I feel bad that that happened. At least it wasn't in Group 2 if it were to happen. I said no interruptions earlier today, and I may have jinxed it. I was not expecting myself to hit the power button midstream. An interview with William Byron going on right now.
Hopefully we're on the front row. It'd be nice to sleep easy tonight and be able to go into tomorrow's duel and not have to worry so much about the result for Sunday. So we'll see. Car looks beautiful, so always have great paint schemes with Exalta, so excited for the week here and ready to get the season going. William Byron looking to keep the front row streak going for Hendrick Motorsports, Jamie.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but Jimmy Johnson must race his way into the Daytona 500 tomorrow night. Jimmy, what was going on during that run?
It's so hard to tell. I know that last year in qualifying, in this new package, the car turns a lot less RPM, and it was very difficult for me to know if it was a good lap or not. And I had that confusion again this year, but sadly, it wasn't fast enough to get us in. We've worked really hard over the offseason, and this isn't what we had hoped for coming down here. Eric ran a respectable lap, so I think it's in there. It's just, just a lot of new elements coming together, and we'll work hard to race our way in tomorrow. It's not a position I wanted to be in, but it is what it is, and we'll do all that we can with this Toyota Camry.
All right, we'll see you in the duels tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
There you have it. The 4 open entry drivers who will have to race their way into the Daytona 500 tomorrow would be BJ McLeod, JJ Yaley, Kaz Gralla, and Jimmy Johnson. Oddly enough, they were the last of the four of the 6 open entries. The first 2 that went out were the 2 that ended up making their way in tonight. Anthony Alfredo and David Reagan have locked up the first 2 open entry spots for the Daytona 500 based on their qualifying time this evening. So for whatever reason, I put them in numerical order this time around. So the order you see on the screen is not the order in which they will run this final session. Harrison Burton will be the first driver to run because he was 10th in that first group, so he will be the first one to go here in Group 2. But again, 10 drivers to set up the pole and second place starting positions for the Daytona 500. And obviously the drivers who do qualify in the front row here tonight would start first in their respective dual races tomorrow night. Once again, the odd numbers will make up the inside row for the Daytona 500, which means they'll be in dual race number 1, and dual race number 2 will be the even numbers. Yeah, that's true. Austin Dillon was one of the early drivers to go. He was actually the earliest of any of the drivers that made their way to Group 2 to run their Group 1 lap. Austin Dillon was the 11th driver to hit the racetrack today. The next closest would have been Harrison Burton, who was the 18th driver out. The problem is Harrison Burton is going to be the first one out there, and Austin Dillon is going to have several drivers going before he makes his way out. So he definitely had the longest to cool his engine. That is a good point. Joey Logano had probably the longest to cool his engine of at least the more notable names, the former champions and drivers in just overall better equipment. But it's a Ford versus Chevy battle right now for the front row spots. 4 Fords and 6 Chevys, no Toyotas in the top 10. And again, defending Daytona 500 winner Alex Bowman. That was a big story of Group 1. Not winner, but pole winner. Alex Bowman did not make it to Group 2. Again, Alex Bowman is not in this final group. He was the only Hendrick car to not qualify inside the top 10. He's a 3-time pole winner of the 500, and 8 times he has qualified on the front row. Hendrick Motorsports trying to be on the pole for the Daytona 500 for the 4th consecutive season. And once again, the streak of 11 consecutive years for Chevy to qualify on the pole for the Daytona 500 is hanging in the balance over the next probably 10 minutes, give or take. It's going to be an interesting one. We'll take an ad break here, and then they will have the final 10 drivers to qualify very shortly. You're listening live on KRC. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content if you haven't yet. We got fake Alex Bowman in the chat right now as well. Appreciate you tuning in. Drivers are strapping up. I wish it would have showed their Group 1 lap times on our screen, but it's all zeros right now, so I'm going to have to read the graphic that shows up on Fox Sports 1, assuming that they do have that graphic up for every driver. I would imagine they would. Make my life easier. If you're just tuning back in and wondering what the heck happened about 10 to 15 minutes ago, I accidentally hit the power button when I was putting the charger into the laptop, get some charge in it, and yeah, I hit the power button by accident when I was reaching my arm across the laptop. So I ended up kind of knocking the stream out for about 2 to 3 minutes or so. It didn't look like we lost too many viewers, so that's good. Appreciate you guys. Wondering what the heck was going on there with like a black screen for 2 to 3 minutes. That would be what happened. Surprised Bubba qualified poorly. I will say the Toyotas don't usually qualify this bad. Yeah, Bubba was hovering for the pole there, I think 2022. And he overall had a fast car that weekend because he finished second in the race also. But yeah, the Toyotas, I mean, sure, they're not where the Chevys are, but I'd say they're usually quicker than the Fords in qualifying at Daytona. Over the broadcast, it made it seem like this is a regular occurrence. It's not usually this bad. Eric Jones in 16th was the best Toyota. No Toyotas qualified in the top 15. So they're all going to be starting deep in the field. And there will be 9 of them this weekend. Remember, usually we're used to seeing 6, but Legacy Motor Club plus the open entry for Legacy Motor Club as well, having that extra entry, they will have 9 cars in the Daytona 500 if Jimmy Johnson, of course, qualifies. He will have to race his way in tomorrow. Unfortunately for Kaz Gralla, he was the only one of 42 entries that was not able to make a lap tonight due to a mechanical issue. And he was one of the open drivers, so again, Gralla will also have to race his way into the Daytona 500 tomorrow. John Barber, thanks for tuning in. Great coverage and commentary. Appreciate it, man. If you guys have not yet hit the like button, be sure to do so. And once again, hit the subscribe button for more daily NASCAR content. If you have not hit the subscribe button yet throughout the course of the stream, we will have live commentary for every NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series race that I do not attend in person this season. Large majority of the races, I will tell you that right now. As far as the Cup Series qualifying going forward, you're wondering, well, I'm doing commentary for qualifying now. Will we be doing that the rest of the season? The answer to that is yes. So Cup qualifying as well as the races for the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series, I will be doing commentary for all season long. I do plan on doing commentary for the ARCA race this weekend in particular as well for Daytona. Doubleheader on Saturday with the ARCA race and the Xfinity race. But this weekend only for ARCA. Potentially Talladega as well in April, but for sure this weekend I will be doing ARCA. Harrison Burton is out on the racetrack. Already locked into a top 10 qualifying spot. But again, only the front row is going to be legitimately set for the 500 after tonight, assuming that they don't have to go to a backup car based on what could happen in the dual race tomorrow. We have seen that in years past where Somebody locks up a front row spot and they get in a wreck in a dual race and they end up having to start at the back anyway. And with a backup car that they have minimal time on the racetrack with. Burton has just started his lap, making his way off turn 2. Again, first of 10 drivers to go in segment/group 2 for the final round of pole qualifying for the Daytona 500. Again, the big story coming into the day was, will Chevy continue their streak of Daytona 500 poles? If they do get a pole winner, that is a bow tie here tonight. It'll be 12 years in a row for the Daytona 500 that the pole position will be won by a Chevy. I will say that they haven't won many of those races. And in fact, the pole winner themselves have not won the Daytona 500 since Dale Jarrett back in 2000. That was the last pole winner. To win the Daytona 500. First time in lap, 49.909 for Harrison Burton. That's slightly faster than what he was in that first group, but not by much. Ross Chastain, is now up. Chastain in the green on Burton. He would have been 9th in Group 1. Group 2, I'd imagine he'd be a little bit quicker. Again, all these lap times should increase at least a little bit. Burton's did. Bigger increase for Chastain. He drops a 49.756. He was in the 49.9s in that first group. Second group he picks up 10th and a half quicker than Harrison Burton. And Ross Chastain is now at the top of the charts. Cool Busch light colors. Here's Kyle Busch.
So that is a drop-off of 18/100ths from his first round. Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch, 18 Daytona 500s with the best finish of second.
So close last year. Got us a drag race here. ECR Engines has 3 engines in the final 10. We talked about Richard Childress and everything that they do as far as effort with these cars coming down here, and having 3 of the top 10 is pretty good.
Yeah, you talk about Doug Yates, everybody at Roush Yates horsepower. Don't you think that those ECR boards ain't capable of building some steam under the hood? Always a lot of emphasis. That car got loose right there off the floor. A lot of emphasis on their performance at this racetrack in particular.
49.72. That is a 1/10 of a second faster. Good that you ran around 1. Two drivers will lock in their starting positions tonight. In Sunday's Daytona 500, everyone else will have to go through the dual races tomorrow night to learn where they will start in the Great American Race. Austin Cindric, his team Penske Ford, started 5th and led 21 laps in his Daytona 500 winning season 2 years ago.
Going to see another good pickup here, Kevin.
See Austin, left side tires right down on that yellow line.
All right, Larry, we're talking about these cars picking up. Why are they picking up? Why are they going faster the second time out?
I mean, you're getting heat in all the driveline, in the transaxle, in the gearbox, in all 4 of the hubs, and that's less rolling resistance when you've got heat in those components. All that essentially was stone cold in round 1.
Cindric to the top, 49.66. He picks up 13/100ths of a second.
All right, top of the board. Biggest pickup so far.
Roger Penske's never won a Daytona 500 pole. See if tonight's the night. Michael McDowell, Daytona 500 winner, noted as a super speedway racer and road course racer. That's where he started his career. and he is right on top of Austin Cindric here for the fastest lap of the night. Now, in this second round, the 10 cars run from slowest to fastest in round 1. So you would expect the speeds to get higher and the times to come down as we go through these 10 drivers all the way to the end.
Man, they put some of that trucker coffee in that Love's, huh? Look at this. Car's got some speed.
Well, and everybody learned from the first round. The tires have a little bit of heat, so that launch should be faster. The oils are better. The drivers are more comfortable with doing everything that they need to do to get the car a little bit closer to the yellow line in the corners.
And McDowell is fastest, 49.53.
53, brother. Top of the board. Hope it holds.
Wow, that's a tenth and a half to go. No, that's a quarter of a...
So Michael McDowell at the top of the charts, that 49.536. Chase Elliott will be next to go. 5 drivers remain. Elliott crosses the start-finish line on his way now into turn 1. Every driver has basically topped themselves as we've gone through this second group, starting with Burton and Chastain topping him right after, followed by Kyle Busch, Austin Cindric, and Michael McDowell, and now Chase Elliott looking to do the same, although Elliott, based off of where Michael McDowell's ghost car is on the FS1 graphic, it does not look like Chase Elliott is going to move into the top spot. He's currently tracking 3rd, so he might not even get a front row starting spot here for the Daytona 500, which would leave just 2 more Hendrick cars to go, and none of them on the front row currently. So Elliott will not get it. Michael McDowell will remain at the top. 4 cars to go. Elliott 3rd with a 49.675. Elliott 8/1000ths of a second off of Austin Cindric, who is also currently in P2. William Byron next on the racetrack. 4 to go. I believe it'll be Byron, followed by Austin Dillon, Kyle Larson, and Joey Logano. Logano was the fastest in Group 1. And as you heard there from Mike Joy over the FS1 broadcast booth, that Roger Penske has never had a pole for the Daytona 500. He's been in the sport for a very long time. Surprising that that has not been the case. He's won multiple Daytona 500s, just hasn't started from there. And it doesn't look like Byron's pacing well enough to beat McDowell either. He's about a 10th off right now, and in fact a slight bit slower than where Chase Elliott was at his point in turns 3 and 4 on his lap. So no pole for William Byron. Clocks in 4th. A little over a 10th off of McDowell, 1/1000th of a second off of Elliott for 3rd. Byron again 4th, 49.676. McDowell hopping out of the car. Now he gets to watch the top of the leaderboard here as we have 3 more cars still to go. Austin Dillon is on the racetrack right now. High side, dropping now down to the double yellow line into the tri-oval. Austin Dillon trying to go for his 2nd career pole in the Daytona 500. And he is right there with McDowell on the ghost car. And now he's starting to slip just a little bit as he works his way off turn 2. Going to need a big tailwind down the back. He's going to want a shot at McDowell's lap time. Ford trying to upset the Chevrolet Brigade. Only 1 more Chevy to go after this, and that is going to be Kyle Larson to try to get the pole for the Daytona 500. And Larson is, once again, the next car to go after Dillon. Dillon not quite as quick as the Hendrick Chevys of Elliott and Byron, pacing to be right around 5th or 6th right now. And it will be 5th for Austin Dillon, right ahead of his teammate Kyle Busch, 49.705 for Dillon. 2 more to go. Kyle Larson, Joey Logano. They were the top 2 in Group 1. Currently on the front row is Michael McDowell and Austin Cindric. McDowell's lap time of a 49.536 is the quickest lap time anybody has ran so far tonight. And Larson pacing well for now, but it looks like it's going to be close into turns 1 and 2. Larson now off turn 2. How will his momentum maintain down the back straightaway? And can he have a steady entry into turn 3? Got to be as smooth as possible. The more you move that wheel, the worse off you're going to be. Have to stay glued to that double yellow line. As he tracks his way off turn 4. It's going to be very close between Larson and McDowell. It is dropping a little bit, but I don't know if it's dropping enough at the line. Second for Kyle Larson. 49.550. McDowell remains on the top spot. McDowell has locked himself for a front row starting spot for the Daytona 500. 14 one-thousandths of a second, the difference between McDowell and Larson right now. And up next is Group 1 winner Joey Logano, the last car to qualify for the Daytona 500. Logano into turn 1. Talking about a Chevy lockout of the 500, it could be a Ford lockout here if Logano can get into the top 2. And right now, he might even get the top spot. He's pacing ahead of McDowell through turns 1 and 2. Neither one of these two drivers has ever started on the pole in the Daytona 500, and they are both one-time Daytona 500 winners. 2015 for Logano, 2021 for McDowell. Logano pacing very well off turn 4. Barring something catastrophic, it looks like Logano is going to get the pole. And he does. A 49.465 for Joey Logano. He'll sweep both rounds of qualifying tonight at Daytona. And Joey Logano, for the first time in his NASCAR Cup career, will start from first on Sunday in the Great American Race. 49.465. Margin over Michael McDowell of 7/100ths of a second. And Joey Logano up on top of the charts. Michael McDowell second. Will lead him to the green in tomorrow night's duel number 2 at Daytona. Kyle Larson in third. Austin Cindric fourth. Chase Elliott fifth. William Byron sixth. Austin Dillon seventh. Kyle Busch eighth. Ross Chastain ninth. And Harrison Burton is going to round out the top 10. You'll get to hear from Joey Logano when we get an interview once he gets out of his car and gets back to pit lane. And we will also go over the starting lineup for the dual races tomorrow night before we end this stream as well. As Fox heads to a commercial break right now. Thank you all for listening. We'll be on for about another 10 to 15 minutes or so. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. If you haven't yet, a Ford lockout of the front row. The Chevy streak will end. Hendrick's streak ends at 3 in a row. And the Chevy streak ends at 11 years consecutive. They've qualified on the pole for the 500. Fords have been fast at Daytona with the next gen, but not as much in qualifying tonight. Fast at qualifying. We'll see if they'll race well tomorrow and, of course, again on Sunday. But I think tomorrow is going to be obviously that first real test, and I'm very interested in seeing how that is going to take place. I'm sure you guys are too, because this is definitely not something we have seen in recent years. Once again, nobody has won from the pole in the Daytona 500 since Dale Jarrett in 2000. Joey Logano, though, a runner-up last year. We know how good of a super speedway racer he is, and of course, a former winner of this race in 2015 as well. He could be a driver to do it. He won his duel at Daytona last year as well. Edging out Christopher Bell in a side-by-side finish. Ready for the duels tomorrow. Yep, and you can tune right here on the channel at 7 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow night. Again, 7 p.m. tomorrow night will be the duel races at Daytona. Duel race number 1. Probably 7:15 or so, and then there will be about a 15 to 20 minute break between the two races. We'll stay right here on the air and bring race 2 to you guys right afterwards. No rain in the forecast for the next couple of days, at least at Daytona, so should get in uninterrupted through tomorrow night's action as well as the Truck Series race on Friday. Our Speed Week coverage is only beginning here tonight with Daytona 500 pole qualifying. Get to watch and listen. Yeah, let's go. Exciting night, though, so far. shocking. It was first shocking when Bowman didn't even make it to the top 10 to make his way for a second group effort of qualifying. Group 2 just did not go his way as well. And again, only the front 2 qualifying positions tonight are going to be set post dual race tomorrow, assuming Logano and McDowell don't get in an incident. And Joey Logano will be leading the field to the green, both in dual race number 1 tomorrow, as well as the Daytona 500 on Sunday. And Michael McDowell will be starting second in the Daytona 500 and first in dual race number 2. Sure, they'll catch up with Joey Logano here once he gets to victory lane. And here he is.
Victory lane, Joey, you've done a lot in your career, but you never won the pole for the Daytona 500. What does this mean to you, to your crew chief Paul Wolf, and this organization with this new model, by the way?
Yeah, this is all about the team. Honestly, and I'd like to take credit, but I can't today. The guys have done such an amazing job working on these cars, and the super speedway qualifying is 100% the car. There's only so much a driver can do. So I'm really proud of them. That's a big win for our team, for everyone at Team Penske. Ford with the new Dark Horse Mustang, being able to come down here and put it on the pin. And finally, someone else wins the pole here. That part feels good. So I've never even been close to a super speedway pole before. So it's my first pole on a speedway. Couldn't be at a cooler event, obviously, Daytona 500. So proud of the team. Can't thank everybody enough. Shell, Pennzoil, Hunt Brothers Pizza, AAA, everybody that supports this number 22 car. Huge deal for Team Penske.
All right, Joey Logano, your pole sitter for the Daytona 500.
How about that? And what a roll, Team Penske.
Starting lineup for dual race number 1 in the Daytona 500. Dual races, at least tomorrow night, will look like this. So again, dual race number 1, Joey Logano on the pole is already prefaced. Kyle Larson will be starting outside of the front row in second. In row 2 will be Chase Elliott and Austin Dillon. Row 3, Ross Chastain, Todd Gilliland. Row 4, Ryan Preece, Chris Buescher. Row 5 is going to be Alex Bowman, Daniel Suarez. Row 6, Anthony Alfredo. And I don't think that is all of them. On the list. It did not have the other graphic alongside Alfredo for whatever reason. Eric Jones, Daniel Hemrick in row 7. Row 8, Martin Truex Jr., Ty Gibbs. Row 9, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Corey LaJoie. Jimmy Johnson, Tyler Reddick in row 10. Remember, Johnson has to race his way into the Daytona 500 tomorrow. Carson Hocevar, J.J. Yaley will be in row 11 to round out that 21 car field in dual race number 1 tomorrow. So Jimmy Johnson, J.J. Yaley will have to race their way in dual race number 1. Best finisher between the two will get that final spot. Dual race number 2 starting lineup for tomorrow night's second race at Daytona. Michael McDowell and Austin Cindric, obviously on the front row. McDowell on the pole. William Byron, Kyle Busch will be row 2. Harrison Burton, Riley Herbst in row 3. Chase Briscoe, Noah Gragson, row 4. Defending champion Ryan Blaney and AJ Allmendinger in row 5. Row 6, it just has Josh Berry. For whatever reason, they messed the graphic up on there. Row 7, both the RFK Fords of Brad Keselowski, David Reagan. Bubba Wallace and Justin Haley in row 8. Row 9, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin. Zane Smith, John Hunter Nemechek in row 10. BJ McLeod, Kaz Grala, row 11. Both McLeod and Grala will be the 2 open entries in dual race number 2. So Joey Logano on the pole for the Daytona 500, and Michael McDowell will be starting second for the 500, but the rest of the lineup will be set up through tomorrow night's dual races again. 7 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, right here on the channel. We'll have coverage flag to flag for both 60-lap dual races, and that will set the lineup for Sunday's Daytona 500. We'll also know who the final 2 entries are into the Daytona 500 based off the 4 drivers still having to race their way in. Also, congratulations tonight go to the 2 drivers who were able to qualify their way into the Daytona 500 on time trial laps alone, David Reagan and Anthony Alfredo. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in here for our second live commentary stream of the season and our first during Daytona Speed Week. We have plenty more action coming for you guys over the next 4 days. Again, tomorrow night, 7. I'll see you guys there. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. You're listening to KRC. You'll be listening again shortly. See you guys tomorrow night, everybody.